In this video, I'd like to highlight yet another way I believe the current gold standard model is insufficient or lacking or just incomplete. And it's how the cognitive heavy approach doesn't take into consideration or overlooks the somatic reality that people experience. So, in other words, the cognitive heavy element of the approach doesn't really cater for the powerful sensations that people actually experience. And it can be summarized, with this idea that there is an inherent problem in the notion of using thinking to solve a thinking based problem. So, the current talking therapy model for helping people like yourself um, is incomplete. And my end goal in the coming years is to work to help improve that issue. But for now, becoming aware of why the model is incomplete can help you acknowledge why you might still be struggling or not in the place you'd like to be. And that in itself can help guide you forwards to make choices to change your trajectory. Now, the most common challenge that clients report to me is that when they've had previous rounds of talking therapy, there is such a challenge in trying to think your way out of overthinking. And it's actually embedded into the very nature of the CBT model. And it's trying to think your way out of thinking problems, and that is futile. So let's just think about it for a moment. One of the most common symptoms in anxiety conditions, depression, PTSD, and things like this, and many other conditions, is that people report that they overthink. They get stuck in negative thought cycles. They run scenarios over in their mind time and time again. Their thoughts are racing and they're fast and they run away with them. They replay past events and catastrophize about worst case scenarios. And it's pretty obvious here that the thinking is the problem. So trying to think your way out of this thinking problem is difficult. Einstein is often credited, anyway, as saying you cannot solve a problem with the same mind that created it. And so trying to apply rational thought while in the grips of a thinking based problem is so difficult. But maybe even more impactful than this is that because it's so difficult, it can be really disheartening, it can be really stressful. And this is what then makes the therapeutic process difficult and unenjoyable, because we're now in a negative state trying to solve a negative problem that just won't work. And so if we go a layer deeper, the current CBT model is too cognitive heavy. The reality for most people is that these racing thoughts create unpleasant physical sensations, and it's often these physical sensations which overpower everything else. So sure, we can understand that our thoughts influence our emotions, which direct bodily sensations, but we've already established thinking your way out of that is often futile. And even more than that, if the physical sensations are actually dominating your headspace, then it's them that's really taking up most of your time and space in your mind. And so a cognitive heavy approach that doesn't have specific tools to resolve the sensations and the feelings in the moment can often render the model not useless, but very unhelpful in many cases. Ineffective is the better term. And this is in part why there's been such an increase in somatic based therapies, because having ways or means to work with the feelings can sometimes be more important in terms of calming the nervous system down to then have the headspace to work on the more cognitive elements. So for me, this is really a double whammy in terms of highlighting why talking therapies like CBT are destined to underperform, because they're cognitive heavy. They're trying to think your way out of a problem that's thinking based, and the sensations are often what dominates your headspace, and they don't address that sufficiently. Now, of course, they have add-on extra tools like mindfulness and meditations, and they help awareness and help regulate those feelings, but the issues are still there.